This year, we are organizing this event in Altab Ali Park with the help, assistance of trade unions, local activists, local progressive groups. First of all, I'd like to request Mr. Abid Ali to preside the meeting. Comrade Abid Ali Abid.
Dear friends and comrades, thank you all being participated our event, the auspicious May Day. You know everybody, this day is a sacrifice by the lots of people from 1886. We are here to commemorate this day, and you already heard this day, this event will be addressed by distinguished speakers from political parties and progressive trade unionists. So now I will request Mr. Shahriar bin Ali, our member secretary, to moderate this auspicious event. Thank you very much.
First speaker is David Rosenberg, author and secretary, Jewish Socialist Group. David Rosenberg.
I'm very, very pleased to be here. I bring greetings from the Jewish Socialist Group, and I bring greetings also from Cable Street 80. Cable Street 80 is the group who will be meeting here in this park in October to march to Cable Street to remember the day when workers of the East End decided that the fascists will not pass through, they will not divide our communities, and we will stop them. As Jewish socialists feel a great affinity with Bangladeshi workers in the East End of London. And that is because many of you have got parents or grandparents who came as immigrants. Many of you came as immigrants yourselves and would have worked in the clothing industries of the East End. Well, in the Jewish Socialist Group, many of our grandparents and great-grandparents came as immigrants to the East End, and they worked in the tailoring trade in Aldgate, Whitechapel, Mile End, and they went through the very same struggles. And they came very poor. They left, a lot of them have left the East End, still quite poor, but every small gain in their lives was made through their collective efforts, through forming trade unions, through forming cultural associations, through forming various social and cultural groups where they could help each other and support each other in times of need. In 1889, 7,500 immigrant Jewish tailors went on strike. They went on strike for the 12-hour day. That was instead of the 14 to 18-hour day. They wanted a 12-hour day with lunch breaks and tea breaks. They wanted that if they were working on tailoring for the government, military clothing, they wanted trade union rates. They also did not want their employers, their sweatshop employers, to give them work to do overnight and bring in the morning. They were out on strike for 4 weeks, and they were struggling to sustain the workers. Their strike fund had very little in it after 4 weeks. But there was another big strike in 1889, the dockers, who were also immigrants, a lot of them, Irish immigrants, Irish Catholic immigrants, who showed their solidarity to the Jewish tailors and helped them win that strike. And that was the start of a very strong relationship between the tailors and the dockers. And that solidarity was really crucial in advancing the cause of the workers across the East End. But the tailors and the dockers had a good example to follow, because 1 year before they were on strike, it was the women of the Bryant and May Match Factory. 1,400 women went out on strike for better conditions, and it was their example that the other workers were able to follow. Also in 1889, I want to mention the gas workers out in West Ham, in Beckton, who were the first workers to win the 8-hour day. The first workers. And what was also built into the gas workers' agreement was equal pay for men and women. And women of the East End have played a really important role in the struggles. Let's not forget the East London suffragettes. Now, there were suffragettes in the West End and there were suffragettes in the East End. The West End were largely middle class, but the working class suffragettes were in the East End, and they were the ones, they worked together to get the vote, to get a political voice in this country, but it was the East End working class suffragettes who led the struggle for equal pay, equal opportunities, equal justice. And so that is all part of the history. I mentioned earlier that that Jewish socialists, a lot of our grandparents were working the East End in the clothing trade. That was the case in my family too. But our movement that we are part of, the Jewish Socialist Group, also has political grandparents. Our political grandparents were an organisation called the Jewish Workers Bund. And Bund is a Yiddish word that means union. It means joining together. And the Bund were people in Russia. They were formed in Russia in 1897, and they took part in the struggles there. And every May Day was for them the most important holiday, the most important day of the year. And they used to bring out declarations every May Day. And their declarations used to say that the importance of May Day is that the workers, when they struggle in a united way, they will be victorious. And May Day, said the Bund, was a bridge between today and tomorrow. And if we can, in our unions, in our workplaces, wherever we are, struggle, bring ourselves together, make alliances, build strong unions, build struggles that can fight for better conditions, we will be victorious tomorrow. Thank you very much.
I'd like to request Roger Sutton. He's Secretary of Greater London TUC. Roger Sutton.
We had 10 or 12,000 people. Jeremy Corbyn spoke at it. And we had a large number of different speakers, including some from the international migrant communities. And it's always been very important for us on May Day to make sure that we have that international element. And that one of the main themes that we have is for international solidarity. Solidarity between everybody, between those irrespective of sex, irrespective of race, irrespective of background. We want to unite workers. I remember the story of a comrade of mine who used to organise in Northern Ireland, where there was a lot of religious bigotry that went on. He used to be always asked when somebody came into the factory, which side does he come from? He always used to ask them, what does he wear? And they'd say, what do you mean? Well, what does he wear? They said, well, an overall. He said, so he's a worker, same as anybody else. And that's what we, that's what we need to support, that sort of background. I bring greetings from the trade union movement in London. There are other trade union speakers here, and I don't want to take everything that they will want to cover as well. It was interesting listening to the previous speaker, because people were very involved with people like the tailor and garment workers, who had a massive tradition in this part of the world, but also large numbers of other organisations that had very strong roots within the different migrant communities. So we are very happy to come and stand with you today to celebrate May Day. We hope that you will feel able to perhaps take part in the larger May Day and then also have your local event. There are a number of local events that go on across London. We want to try and make May Day the biggest event in the year. We also want to make May Day a public holiday. Remember, in this country, May the 1st is not the public holiday, it's the first Monday in May, unlike across the rest of Europe. So one of our demands is that we want to make May Day a public holiday. There are many disputes, as you know, going on at the moment. We had at Trafalgar Square a speaker from the junior doctors. And again, a very important dispute which is going on. We had a speaker from the teachers and over a dispute which is one of them affects everybody, everybody's children, everybody across the country. There is the attempt by this academisation, by the attempt to increasingly privatise the provision of education, to make it exclusively an advantage for those of the wealthy, and for those in the more deprived areas, you have to sink or swim. We don't want that. We want to be able to fight, stand together. Same with the National Health Service. We have to stand together and fight together, and we bring our greetings to you and hope that we can build on this meeting here today. It's a very important initiative to build up again the traditions of May Day within the East End. Thank you.
Principal speaker today, Andrew Murray. He's the Chief of Staff, Unite the Union, and Chairman of Stop the War Coalition. Andrew Murray.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, and it's a pleasure to celebrate May Day in the heart of East London, because these streets around us speak to everything that May Day represents. It was in these streets 130 years ago, as David has already said, that mass trade unionism was born in the Great Dot Strike and at Bryant and May. And it was in these streets 80 years ago that people united to defeat fascism in Cable Street, just down there. And 30 years ago, when Bangladeshi youth stood up against the racist violence exemplified by the murder of Altab Ali, after whom this park is named, and who reclaimed the East End from the barbarians of the National Front at the time. And it is an East End that has stood solid ever since against imperialism and its wars. So it is an honour to be here. And today is an international day. And so it's right that we salute those struggling around the world for peace, for justice, and for socialism. And of course one can't mention all of them, but one should recognise today the workers of Brazil struggling against the coup unfolding as the bourgeoisie attempt to overthrow the democratic progressive government there. We should express solidarity with all those in the Ukraine fighting against fascism and the extension of NATO power eastwards. We should support those in France over the Channel, trade unionists fighting against draconian new labour laws, fighting often in the face of great police violence for their rights as workers. And of course, and it's particularly important this week, to also salute solidarity with the Palestinian people fighting for justice, fighting for their freedom, and no amount of smear campaigns are going to break the solidarity that we express for them. And also, we have to note that here on May Day we are celebrating it in the capital of a country that is at war. We have the war in Syria, stoked and fuelled by imperialism, including the British government, causing misery to millions, with Britain now engaged in illegal and aggressive military action. And we have the planned sending of 1,000 troops to Libya. Libya, a country already destroyed by intervention organised by the British and French governments. A country plunged into chaos, and in both Syria and Libya, turning hundreds of thousands and millions of people into refugees. And as long as we are creating refugees across the Middle East, we have an obligation to say you're welcome here. We extend our solidarity to you. Brothers and sisters, we are also meeting at a time of great turmoil and rising struggle in our own country. And every struggle that we are facing links to a bigger whole. We should send our solidarity today to those steel workers facing the destruction of their industry in South Wales and elsewhere, because their fight is not just a fight for their jobs and communities, their fight is a fight for the future of manufacturing industry across Britain as a whole. It's a fight against capitalist globalisation and the policies of this government that serve only the interests of big finance. A critical government is not a fight just over their own contracts, important as it is. It is a fight to defend the National Health Service and the welfare state and the achievements which are fought for by generations of people in East London, now under possibly terminal attack from this government. So supporting the junior doctors is not just an act of solidarity, it is an act of unity and struggle for ourselves as a community. All these struggles are around us and are coming to a head as this government loses its grip with a budget that has even provoked the resignation of one of its own hardline members, Ian Duncan Smith. The Tories are being rumbled. People are aware that their agenda, their austerity programme is simply aimed at supporting the rich, and if there's any doubt in it, just look at the trade union bill being forced through the Commons today, or the Houses of Parliament this week. Yes, there have been some concessions in it, some modifications to its proposal, but it is still legislation designed to throttle the right to strike, the strike that was fought for here in the East End 100 years and more ago. It is designed to render unions incapable of political and social action, and we have to say to the Tories that this legislation will be defied by the whole movement by whatever means we can muster, and we are not going to let ourselves get legislated out of existence. Brothers and sisters, all these things, we have an election coming up on Thursday, and here is a chance to, on the basis of all these issues, deliver a huge rebuke to the Conservative Party, to Cameron and to his cronies. And they are throwing everything at trying to stop that. And I just want to conclude by talking about the thing that has happened in the last week, the attack on the Labour Party and its leader over anti-Semitism. There is no one here who will deny that anti-Semitism was one of the greatest evils and led to the greatest crimes of the 20th century. The defence, the full defence of equality and social and political rights and prevention from discrimination and abuse for Jewish people is part of the urgent mandate of our common humanity. There can be no doubt about that, and people who play with that with silly phrases and ill-judged comments and bizarre historical analogies are doing us no favours. But let's say something else as well. The Labour movement has fought against anti-Semitism from its foundation, just as it has fought against every form of racism. We need no lectures from the Conservative government about fighting anti-Semitism in the Labour movement. And let's also be clear, some people on the right wing of the Labour Party are simply using this issue as the latest stick to beat Jeremy Corbyn with. They're denying the enormous mandate he won, a mandate in part due to his strong lifelong stand against racism and for internationalism. And we will not let this disgraceful smear campaign coming from a Tory party, which is the real repository of British racism, to demonise the Labour Party, to smear it or to break our unity. So brothers and sisters, we have to reject the campaign to destroy the most left-wing Labour leader that there has been, certainly since the Second World War. We have to unite around our principles of peace, solidarity and justice. We have to take the fight to the government by all possible means in the weeks and months ahead, and we have to work on the basis of the great slogan from the first May Day to today: workers of the world, unite.
Our next speaker is Nasrin Ahmed Monjori, General Secretary, Bangladesh Youth Union, UK. Nasrin Ahmed Monjori.
I would like to thank you on behalf of Bangladesh Youth Union UK for gathering here today on this auspicious day in history. Today I'm going to devote myself on an issue in my own country, Bangladesh. I'm going to devote myself on Rana Plaza. For the past 3 years, observance of May Day has been overshadowed by the tragedy of Rana Plaza in Dhaka, Bangladesh. Today I want to devote myself to the collapse of Rana Plaza, an 8-story building that housed a number of textile factories on 24th April 2013, killing 1,133 workers and wounding 2,500. It was one of the worst workplace disasters in recorded history and was dubbed as mass industrial slaughter. The immediate human reaction in the West, as in the House of Commons Bangladesh All-Party Group report of 2013 is commendable, but what all such reports and humanitarian sentiments ignores is the economic aspects of garment industry in Bangladesh. I would like to ask, why do the multinational corporations of the West are so dependent on factories located in Bangladesh, yet deny any responsibility of the awful wages, living and working conditions of the workers? The answer is simple: outsourcing and profits. Today, only 2% of clothing worn in USA is produced there. It is outsourced to places like Bangladesh. There is a similar pattern in the rest of the Western capitalist order. This has been done to exploit cheap source of wage labor. In such chain of production, it is global buyers who determines what to be produced, where, and by whom, and what price. No wonder at the time of Rana Plaza incident, the British TUC government commented, and I quote, "This appalling loss of life proves that in the global race to the bottom on working condition, the finishing line is Bangladesh." As for profits, let me give you an example. A t-shirt made in Bangladesh is sold in Germany for €4.95 by Swedish retailer Hannes Martinez, known as H&M. However, they pay only €1.35 to Bangladeshi manufacturers. Of that, 40 cents is the cost of 400 grams of cotton raw material imported from USA, and further 40 cents is the cost towards shipping. The 40 cents is the cost of 400 cotton raw materials imported from USA, and the further 6 cents per shirt goes to shipping costs. Only €0.95 of €4.95 remains in Bangladesh, a staggering outflow by any standard. The workers who produce the t-shirts are left with less than 5% of the final sale price. Another short statistics: in 2013, the year when Rana Plaza collapsed, the tariff charged by the US government on its garment imports from Bangladesh alone exceeded the total wages received by the workers who made these goods. When Rana Plaza hit the headlines, in the West, the human aspects of the tragedy, alongside the health and safety and the corruption in Bangladesh, that dominated the news. What was missing was the super exploitation of Bangladeshi garment workers, where over 85% were women. And also missing was their plight for their health, safety and dignity. We shied away from confronting the economics of 19th century exploitation in faraway countries, propping our 21st century modern consumption of the West. it is not only the multinational companies were the sole culprit. There were a number of intermediaries in Germany who pocketed part of the 3.54 euros that included the German government, who took 19% of the sale price through VAT. We all are implicated. We are all implicated. As we observe May Day in 2016, let us not forget the economics and the super exploitation. Let us not forget the part of the good health of our economies in the West rests on productions of consumer goods have been relocated. By emphasizing that our struggle is an international one, the deindustrialization of the north of England is intimately related to the outsourcing of production to places like Bangladesh. The fight is to fight this irrational and exploitative system. We need to build international solidarity amongst workers of the world. And that is the abiding lesson of May Day. Last but not least, we'd like to say how privileged we are to be here as a part of this great crowd. Let us, comrades, let us celebrate the labor that built up this habitable world. From field to field, from desk to desk, they built in hand, solidarity, and May Day greetings to all. Thank you.
From the previous speakers, I want to, well, first of all say thank you very much for the invitation to be here, to join you. What a pleasure it is to be here. And I want to congratulate the Bangladesh Workers Council, first of all, for organising this great event. I hope it will become a famous annual event in the East End, a famous annual event for the trade union movement, for the working class movement right across London. I hope that we will be here next year in even bigger numbers. And I hope it's an opportunity every year for us to assert our common struggle against global capitalism and for workers' rights and against racism and imperialism. So thank you very much for the invitation, and what a wonderful banner we're stood in front of, so congratulations to the artist. I think it's a great banner. I've been introduced as a trade unionist, which I am, and also as the chair of the Marx Memorial Library in London. I want to just say to you that we've just celebrated today in Clerkenwell Green, where the Marx Memorial Library is situated, is located. We've just had a wonderful day with thousands of people celebrating the fight for freedom of expression, the fight for the right of workers to protest and to assert their rights, which we do every year on May Day, International Workers' Day. But the Marx Memorial Library was founded in 1933 when people in this country and throughout the world faced the very real danger of the threat of fascism worldwide. And the reason for the founding of a library in London to safeguard and propagate the ideas of socialism, the ideas defended by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels and Lenin, was because the burning of books in 1933 by Karl Marx in Berlin shocked the world. And people in London saw this as an assault on science, an assault on the working class, an assault on knowledge, an assault on our enlightenment. And so they determined to defend those ideas by putting together a library in London where workers could come in order to access ideas which had been defended by previous generations of workers, ideas about human liberation. And we still do that in Marx Memorial Library today. One of the things which we do, and I hope that we can speak to comrades from the Bangladeshi community and from the Bangladeshi Workers Council in the coming weeks and months, one of the things we do is to provide education courses for trade unions and trade unionists in political economy, in the way that the wages system works, in the way that capitalist exploitation works. And I'm sure that as you grow stronger, as the Bangladeshi Workers Council gets more famous, has more members, that you will want to work with us in providing education to your members that will help them to help workers and people living in your communities in order to fight for their rights better, more effectively, to access trade unions, to access all of the things that workers need in order to lead a better life. So I'm just going to leave it there, comrade. Thank you very much for inviting us. We look forward to working with you in 2016, and happy May Day, happy International Workers' Day to everyone here. I look forward to seeing you all again in 2017, which will be the 100th year anniversary of the Great Russian Revolution.
Nasir Uddin Nas.
To celebrate this kind of initiative is a testament of how important it is to have initiatives like this. I know lots of people already spoke about the history of our trade unions, so I'm not going to go over that, but the one thing that I would like to take us back to is in the late 90s when we had the racist attacks here in town, Hamlets, you had Desai, you had Ahmed. One of the things that we saw universally supporting everything that we as Bangladeshi black people did was a trade union movement. The one time that we always needed support, they were always there. I think since 80 years ago from when Cable Street happened, there was never another gathering of similar size to when the trade union movement supported what happened here in the mid-90s, when there was thousands and thousands of people that took to these streets about what happened here in entire Hamlet. So for me, the fact that we as Bangladeshi people are coming together and saying how important it is to have this kind of movement is fantastic. And I think it's been said that we want to be here next year, bigger and better. I hope that happens. And someone said earlier that, you know, May Day is not a bank holiday. I think let's get behind that campaign and get May Day as a bank holiday. Thank you very much.
Speaker is Nasima Kajol, General Secretary of Nari Diganto, the Progressive Association of Bangladeshi Women.
Diganto, a progressive organization of women of Bangladeshi origin in Britain, I express my solidarity with May Day and this rally organized by Bangladeshi Workers Council. We established our organization about 3 years ago as an educational and campaigning body for women in their struggle for a more equal society in Britain and Bangladesh. We have observed over the past years the International Women's Day through seminars, campaigns on issues and cultural events. This is the first time that we are participating in a joint event with trade unions and the wider labor movement. We have been keenly aware that there are links and similarities between movements around women in Bangladesh and Britain. The pioneers of women's education such as Begum Rachael and Leela Nag, who established the first school for women in Bangladesh in the 1930s, was inspired by the work of France Mary Buss, who set up the first women's school in Britain in Camden over 150 years ago. The first political organization in Bangladesh in the 1940s, Mohila Attorakkha Samiti, was inspired by the suffragette movement in Britain. In present day Bangladesh, we observe that educational and cultural struggles have been supplemented by the struggle for the right of women garment workers. There is the efforts of NGOs and the civil society to attain equality for women in education, employment, and the legal sector. Over the past 25 years, the phenomenon of over nearly 4 million women working in the garment industry has met the question of equality for women has merged with political empowerment, anti-globalization movement, and the struggle against multinational corporations. In a similar manner, the economic struggle of the workers will not be victorious without waging in an all-out war against reactionary cultural and religious forces. The solidarity of the international working people is essential for equality, women and their emancipation in Bangladesh. Thank you.
Bangladeshi workers from Bangladesh, they are also celebrating the May Day there, the garments workers, the general workers. Now I would like to invite Ifthakarul Poplo, the president of Bangladesh Youth Union, to read out this solidarity message in front of us.
বরাবর আহ্বায়ক সদস্য সচিব বাংলাদেশি ওয়ার্কার্স কাউন্সিল যুক্তরাজ্য অভিবাদন ও সংহতি জানবেন বাংলাদেশি ওয়ার্কার্স কাউন্সিল বিডব্লিউসি যুক্তরাজ্যের চলমান শ্রমিক শ্রেণীর আন্দোলনের সাথে সেখানকার বাংলাদেশি শ্রমিক ও কর্মজীবীদের স্বার্থকে যোগপথভাবে এগিয়ে নেওয়ার প্রত্যয়ী সংগঠন হিসেবে আত্মপ্রকাশ করেছে। বাংলাদেশের শ্রমিক আন্দোলন এবং শ্রমিক শ্রেণীর মুক্তি সংগ্রামে নিয়োজিত প্রত্যেকের জন্য এটি সুসংবাদ। নিজ দেশের শ্রমিক শ্রেণী যতটা শোষণ এবং জুলুমের শিকার হয়ে থাকে, অভিবাসী শ্রমিকরা সেসবের পাশাপাশি নানান রকমের অবহেলা, অত্যাচার আর বৈষম্যের শিকার হন। এই সমস্ত জুলুম বৈষম্যের বিরুদ্ধে বাংলাদেশি অভিবাসী শ্রমিকদের লড়াই সংগ্রামের কেন্দ্র হিসাবে বাংলাদেশি ওয়ার্কার্স কাউন্সিল বিডব্লিউসি সর্বাত্মক ভূমিকা রাখবে এবং সারা দুনিয়ার শ্রমিক মেহনতি মানুষের মুক্তির পথ দেখাবে, এটাই আমাদের বিশ্বাস। আমরা মহান মে দিবস উদযাপনে পূর্ব লন্ডনের আলতাব আলী পার্কে বাংলাদেশি ওয়ার্কার্স কাউন্সিল বিডব্লিউসি আয়োজিত সমাবেশের সাফল্য কামনা করি। আমরা প্রত্যাশা করি এই সমাবেশ সার্থকভাবে সেখানকার শ্রমিক শ্রেণীর মেহনতি মানুষের বঞ্চনার কথা তুলে ধরতে সক্ষম হবে। একই সাথে অধিকার আদায়ের সংগ্রামে বাংলাদেশি অভিবাসী শ্রমিকদের ঐক্যবদ্ধ করার লক্ষ্যে গুরুত্বপূর্ণ ভূমিকা পালন করবে। মহান মে দিবস অমর হোক, দুনিয়ার মজদুর এক হও। ধন্যবাদ সহ সভাপতি শহীদুল্লাহ চৌধুরী, সাধারণ সম্পাদক অজিউর রহমান, বাংলাদেশ ট্রেড ইউনিয়ন কেন্দ্র, ঢাকা, বাংলাদেশ। ওয়ার্কার্স অফ দ্য ওয়ার্ল্ড ইউনাইট, গভর্নমেন্ট ওয়ার্কার্স ট্রেড ইউনিয়ন সেন্ট্রাল। মহান মে দিবসে পূর্ব লন্ডনের আলতাব আলী পার্কে সমবেত সহযোদ্ধাদের প্রতি গার্মেন্টস শ্রমিক ট্রেড ইউনিয়ন কেন্দ্রের অভিবাদন ও সংহতি। যুক্তরাজ্যে বসবাস এবং কর্মরত বাংলাদেশি অভিবাসী শ্রমিক কর্মজীবীদের সংগঠন বাংলাদেশি ওয়ার্কার্স কাউন্সিলের আহ্বানে মহান মে দিবস উদযাপনের লক্ষ্যে আয়োজিত সমাবেশের প্রতি বাংলাদেশের 36 লক্ষ গার্মেন্টস শ্রমিকের অধিকার আদায়ের লড়াকু প্রতিষ্ঠান গার্মেন্টস শ্রমিক ট্রেড ইউনিয়ন কেন্দ্র সংহতি জানাচ্ছে। সমাবেশের সাফল্য কামনা করছি এবং সমবেত সকলকে জানাই সংগ্রামী অভিনন্দন। সাথী ও বন্ধুগণ, যখন সারা দুনিয়া ব্যাপী একচেটিয়া পুঁজির শোষণ আরো তীব্রতর হয়েছে, সাম্রাজ্যবাদী আগ্রাসনে গোটা বিশ্ব বিপন্ন প্রায়, তখন এই সাম্রাজ্যবাদী বিশ্ব ব্যবস্থার অভিঘাতে তৃতীয় বিশ্ব থেকে শিল্পোন্নত দুনিয়ার দিকে অভিবাসী মানুষের স্রোত আরো ফুলে উঠবে, এটাই স্বাভাবিক। আজ তেমনটাই আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি। এমন সময়ে যুক্তরাজ্যের চলমান শ্রমিক শ্রেণীর আন্দোলনের সাথে সেখানকার বাংলাদেশি শ্রমিকদের স্বার্থকে যুগপথভাবে এগিয়ে নেওয়ার প্রত্যয়ে বাংলাদেশি ওয়ার্কার্স কাউন্সিল বিডব্লিউসি এর আত্মপ্রকাশ একটি ঐতিহাসিক ঘটনা হিসাবে আমাদের কাছে প্রতিভাত হয়। যুক্তরাজ্যের অভিবাসী বাংলাদেশি কর্মজীবীদের এই ঐক্যবদ্ধ প্রয়াস আমাদের অনুপ্রাণিত করেছে। অভিবাসী শ্রমিকরা একদিকে একচেটিয়া পুঁজির শোষণ, অন্যদিকে নানান রকমের বৈষম্যের শিকার হয়ে থাকে। এই পরিস্থিতি মোকাবেলায় বাংলাদেশি ওয়ার্কার্স কাউন্সিলের সকল কর্মকাণ্ড এবং আন্দোলনে বাংলাদেশের শ্রমজীবী মানুষের সর্বাত্মক সমর্থন আপনারা পাবেন। আজ যুক্তরাজ্যের সংগ্রামী জনতা বুঝতে পেরেছে যে ক্ষমতাসীনদের সংকুচন নীতি শ্রমিক শ্রেণীর মানুষের আয়, সঞ্চয় ও নাগরিক সুবিধাকে সংকুচন করেছে আর ধনীদের ব্যাংক ব্যালেন্সকে করেছে প্রসারিত। প্রবাসী শ্রমিক নিয়োগ সংক্রান্ত যুক্তরাজ্যের বর্তমান আইন সেখানে কর্মরত হাজার হাজার বাংলাদেশি রেস্টুরেন্ট শ্রমিককে কাজের সুযোগ থেকে বঞ্চিত করছে। আমরা আশাবাদী যে যুক্তরাজ্যে অবস্থানরত অধিকার বঞ্চিত বাংলাদেশি শ্রমিকরা BAWC এর নেতৃত্বে একটি বৈষম্যমূলক আইন সংশোধনের জন্য জনমত তৈরি এবং আন্দোলনে সফলতা অর্জন করবে। এই সংগঠন প্রবাসে নিজ দেশীয় শ্রমিক শ্রেণীর স্বার্থ ও আন্তর্জাতিক শ্রমিক আন্দোলনে কার্যকর ভূমিকা পালন করতে যে পদক্ষেপ গ্রহণ করেছে, আমরা তার সাথে সর্বাঙ্গীন সাফল্য কামনা করি। একই সাথে অধিকার আদায়ের সংগ্রামে বাংলাদেশি অভিবাসী শ্রমিকদের ঐক্যবদ্ধ করার লক্ষ্যে আপনারা গুরুত্বপূর্ণ ভূমিকা পালন করবেন, এটাই আমাদের প্রত্যাশা। আপনাদের সাথে কণ্ঠ মিলিয়ে বলতে চাই, মহান মে দিবসের চেতনায় সারা বিশ্বের শ্রমজীবী মানুষ উজ্জীবিত হোক। শোষণ মুক্ত সমতার বিশ্ব গড়ার সংগ্রামে নিয়োজিত পৃথিবীর সকল শ্রমজীবীদের প্রতি লড়াকু অভিনন্দন ও সংহতি। দুনিয়ার মজদুর এক হও। কাজী রুহুল আমিন, সাধারণ সম্পাদক, গার্মেন্টস শ্রমিক ট্রেড ইউনিয়ন কেন্দ্র, ঢাকা, বাংলাদেশ। সবাইকে ধন্যবাদ।
May Day is a symbol of internationalism, a symbol of struggle and a symbol of class unity. These are our most powerful tools which we need to arm ourselves in a struggle for better lives, in our struggle against poverty and wars generated by capitalist barbarity. I want to say just a few words on the origins of May Day. The origins, I think, are very significant. I will speak into the mic. Okay. May Day originated in the struggle for the 8-hour day. And amazingly enough, the United States of America was very important in this. Now, you wouldn't think so today, because May the 1st is, in America now, is Loyalty Day. And Labour Day is celebrated in September, the first Monday in September, which is a crying shame. May Day at the moment is celebrated in 86 countries throughout the world. So just back to America for a moment, because Americans do need to learn their own history, their own labour history, so that they can reclaim it. When the struggle was adopted in America, particularly in Chicago, the Haymarket strike of May the 1st, which was brutally suppressed by the repressive apparatus of the state. But the real key moment in ensuring that May Day became an international celebration was adopted by the first international, the one that Marx attended, until his death, in 1866. That adopted an 8-hour motion, and Marx, in Das Kapital, Volume 1, said that labour with a white skin cannot emancipate itself where labour with a black skin is branded. And of course, in those days, in the United States, slavery was the norm. Once slavery was ended as a result of the Civil War, the whole May Day movement and the 8-hour movement became a united movement. That's not to say that racism doesn't exist, or didn't exist, and still does exist. The second international at the Paris conference adopted an 8-hour motion as well. And it resolved that May the 1st was a day for international demonstrations, and Lenin played a key role, of course, after the Russian Revolution, because the young Soviet Republic was the first country in the world to ensure that May Day became a national holiday, something that we haven't got here, but we have got in many other countries. And we must have it here, and we must fight for it. We have May Day, as I said before, is now an official holiday in 86 countries and an unofficial celebration in many more. I know I have to finish, and I will do, but I want to say before I do, long live May Day, long live workers' international solidarity everywhere.
When me and my colleague
joined in front of the Marx Memorial this morning, I could see the representatives from all over the world were there to celebrate this day. I am also very proud that a multicultural East London is saying today is really embracing the same day the way I saw this morning with a huge number of gathering and marching towards Trafalgar Square. Comrades, you have heard lots of things about the origin of the May Day, so there is no need to repeat those things. I just wanted to mention today, in a day before yesterday, in the television interview, somebody asked me, what is the relevance of observing May Day among the Bengali workers' community in London? How does it help to the people, the worker class of Bangladesh? Our comrade colleague Nasrin has already told you about the situation of the workers in Bangladesh. I just wanted to add a few small things there. Last year, in December, I went to Rana Plaza just to see what change has been taking place for last 3 years in that area. Comrades, I'm ashamed to say that basically nothing has been done. After the death and injury of 5,000 people on that day, since then the workers gained very little. Only 5% of 3.5 million garment workers have got the right for trade union. They still work more than 16 or 18 hours even per day. Per day wage of the Bangladeshi, the minimum wage set by the government is £1 and 58 pence per day. When I was standing with the garment workers there, one of the comrades just hold my shirt and said, "Comrade, how much does this shirt cost in London?" When I told the price, he said, 2 of these shirts are my monthly salary. Comrades, there is no right of trade union. Only 5 of the 1,340 factories being visited in Bangladesh, only 5 passed the health and safety check. 70 million was promised by the high street giants in this country to uplift that things. Nothing has been done. Where does this money go? It doesn't go to the workers of England. It doesn't go to the middle class or the struggling people of England. It is in the pocket of 1% of the population in this country. Comrade, as a doctor myself, I have been joining. I'm a retired senior doctor, and I joined the junior doctors. You cannot imagine what is the agony of the junior doctors, the nurses, the health workers. You will see that this is a deliberate attempt by the ruling parties in this country to completely get NHS out of the face of this country. They are really trying to establish the privatized health. Workers, Bangladeshi workers are here. As a professional, I would like to tell you, if you don't stand up now, under this banner, you will never enjoy the NHS which was created in 1948 by the Labour Party. Comrades and friends, before I conclude, I wanted to say a little bit about the cultural movement of Bangladesh. Because right after our speeches, you will be hearing the people's song, or which in Bengali called as GONOSANGEET. It will be explained to you. 100 years after that of Haymarket, that in 1968 in Bangladesh, during the movement of the people against the tyrant military rulers of Pakistan, the workers, the peasants. On behalf of them, a cultural movement was Udichi. Udichi means the Northern Star. The artists of that organization today, in solidarity with the workers of London, particularly the Bengali community, will perform after this one. I'm proud to be an advisor to that organization and express it. Comrades, I don't want to take any more time, but I am really proud that my colleagues of the trade union, my colleagues of the Labour Party, my colleagues of the working class representative from the Marx Memorial Center to every rightful thinking people of this country who really thinks about the workers of this country has joined this meeting, and I'm sure next year it will be in a larger form than this. I remember in a soggy afternoon of last year, we only had few people. But now I can see at least 3 times or 4 times more than that gathering. Comrades, with all the greetings of the May Day, the hallmark of the unity of the workers throughout the whole world, we'd like to congratulate you and we'd like to welcome to our program. Thank you.
Today, May Day, International Workers' Day, is something that we should be proud to celebrate. And I support the campaign for that to be a proper May Day. Yes, bank holiday, let's enjoy it. But May Day is Workers' Day, and it's a day that brings working people all around the world together. So it's something that we need to cherish and pass the history on to future generations. Where we are studying today, this is an area that reeks of history, of trade union struggles, of the struggles against racism and fascism. In 1977, after the murder of Altab Ali, 10,000 workers, mainly Bangladeshi, marched in pouring rain to central London in protest against racist attacks. David Rosenberg, I don't know if David is still here, talked about Cable Street. It's the 80th anniversary of Cable Street this year. And again, that's just on the road. This area, as history, should inspire us to face today's challenges. And there are many challenges. Other speakers have already spoken about the attacks on the NHS, about what's going on in the steel industry, about what's going on worldwide, in Brazil, in Bangladesh. Workers everywhere are being attacked. But also, the movement has a proud history of resistance and of fighting back. So let us use today to intensify our determination, our resolve to fight all forms of inequality, of oppression, of injustice, as the banner behind us sort of says very clearly, fighting for equality and social justice. And there's another battle that is now coming up. That is the battle about the battle for London. On Thursday, May the 5th, is election for the Mayor of London. And comrades, this is extremely important battle. We have 2 clear choices on Thursday. A choice for a progressive, tolerant, modern, diverse London symbolized by Sadiq Khan, or a reactionary London, which has been characterized by his campaign, Zach Goldsmith. Sadiq has fought a positive campaign around more housing, more affordable housing, building more homes for Londoners, a living wage, a proper wage. If Sadiq is elected, he has pledged to set up a fairness unit at City Hall, which will champion trade union rights, which will champion the living wage, which will make sure that contracts given out by the GLA do not actually go out to employers who blacklist trade union activists and trade union supporters. The shame that is blacklisting. We need to blacklist the blacklisters. And in that sense, I am proud to have proposed a motion at Union Council last year that Union Council will not enter into contracts with employers who victimize trade union activists. So Sadiq's victory election on May the 5th is absolutely essential for the labour movement, the trade union movement, all progressive forces to go forward. The fairness unit is an important step. Sadiq stands for many, many things. He has been a subject of a vicious and negative campaign over the last few days and weeks. And that is why it is important that we go out and work to ensure that he is elected on Thursday, because that is, I say, a very important victory in the fight for a Labour government in 2020. Comrades, let us intensify efforts over the next few days. There's only 3 days to go. Let us ensure that on May the 6th, that we do not say to ourselves, could I have done more to secure the victory of a progressive mayor, a progressive Labour administration that can epitomize, that can show in practice what socialism is all about, what equality is all about, what fairness is all about. So I'm proud to be here. I hope that this becomes an annual event, and I pledge to be with you here next year. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you very much to the Bangladeshi Workers Council for bringing us together on this really important day, May Day. I want to say something about 3 points. One is about Hamlets, one other point about what we need to do to resist this Conservative government, and then a third point just following on from what Unmesh has said about the importance of elections on Thursday. And I also bring 2 apologies with me, unfortunately. So Mayor John Biggs, the Mayor of Hamlets, had hoped to be here but isn't well, and also Chris Weavers, the Chair of Hamlets Labour Party, isn't well either. So apologies, but I'm here, I hope, representing each of them. And the first thing I wanted to say is about the work that we're currently doing here locally in Hamlets, because I think I've learned 2 things. When I came to Hamlets, I finished university, so I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Wiltshire, in the middle of the countryside, in the middle of nowhere, but I came here as a recent graduate, and I'd studied history and politics at university, but I've learned far more about history and politics living in Hamlets than I've ever learned from books. And part of the history that I've learned is the history of Cable Street, the history of Altab Ali, and the incredibly important shoes that we all stand in as campaigners and activists in Hamlets. But I've learned 2 really significant things living here. One is that you stand up for yourself and fight back against injustice and racism. You don't let things slide. You don't let people push you around. You don't let people threaten you. You stand up for yourself. And I was glad to be at the East London Mosque recently when Britain First, the modern and deeply unpleasant incarnation of modern fascism, came to threaten the mosque recently. It's an ongoing battle, and we keep fighting, and we stand together as we fight. But the other huge lesson that I've learned living in Hamlets is that if and when there is ever conflict amongst ourselves, we sit down and we have a conversation and we work it out. And that's something that's really important in Bangladeshi culture, that sometimes there can be conflict and we continue to do battle, but actually that process of sitting down, working things out, listening to each other and having conversations is so important as well. And Hamlets politics has been through an incredibly fractious and difficult time, and I'm really grateful to be here at what I hope is the resurgence of a really political dialogue about how we move forward together in Hamlets politics, how we move forward together as local representatives, campaigners, trade unionists, members of the labour movement. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of this event and to say something today for that reason. The second thing I wanted to say is about the Conservative government, because as a council we are now in that situation where we are the battered shield fighting to protect local services against the attacks of the Conservative government. And we've had some real wins. We won on funding for GP surgeries. The Conservative government tried to cut the additional funding that Hamlets gets to tackle poverty. Poorer areas need more investment, and we won when the Conservative government tried to take that funding away from us. So that's one fight that we won, both on the streets and by doing battle within government as well, locally in Hamlets. There's another fight which our friends in the trade union movement are in the middle of now, the trade union bill, vicious, stripping away the rights of trade unionists to organise, that is so important to all of our liberation. And in Parliament there is still a vicious and toxic bill, but the trade unions have been successful working with, the House of Lords is a ridiculous institution, but at least we can sometimes win some parliamentary victories through it. So there is a huge amount of work we need to do to protect the rights of trade unions to organise here and internationally. And the third point is my particular responsibility in the council is education, because the values of solidarity and standing together have really manifested themselves in the way in which educational achievement has skyrocketed in the most amazing way over the past 20 years in Hamlets. And the Conservatives are threatening that. The Conservatives are trying to atomise atomise, to pull schools apart, to set parents against one another, instead of supporting parents and families and teachers and communities in working together for our children. So we'll do everything we can to keep Hamlets education together, to fight for our NHS and to fight for the right of our trade unions to organise. The third thing I wanted to say is, just to add to what Unmesh said, is about the importance of elections on Thursday. Unmesh is too modest. I don't think he even mentioned that he's also a candidate in those elections. So I'm very proud to be campaigning for Unmesh to be the next City and East representative in the GLA. But I'm also very proud to be campaigning for Sadiq Khan, because he has been, I was going to say he's been the victim of a vile racist campaign. He hasn't been a victim. He is not a victim. He is going to win. But the campaign that has been run against him is revolting. The picture of in the Daily Mail today of the bus that was so sadly blown up on 7/7, the explicit attempts by the Conservative Party, currently our government, trying to link the man of real integrity and honesty and peace that is Sadiq Khan, attempting to link him with the terrorists on 7/7. It is revolting, and I would ask for all of your help and support in standing up against that and in getting him elected on Thursday. Thank you very much.
Warmest greetings and congratulations for organising this terrific event. Particular congratulations to the Bangladeshi Workers Council of the UK, and we look forward to having the same close comradely relationship with you as we have with the Indian Workers Association of Great Britain and other domiciled workers and left-wing organisations. Comrades and friends, not only across the world this weekend are there marches and demonstrations and rallies to celebrate International Workers' Day, but across Britain too there are marches and rallies and demonstrations. You won't see them reported on the BBC, you won't see them on Sky News, you might possibly see them on RT, but if you're looking forward to reading anything about them in the Daily Mail or the Sun tomorrow, I'm afraid you're going to be very disappointed. The only daily newspaper that will be reporting the tremendous demonstrations and marches we've already had this weekend to celebrate International Workers' Day in Britain will of course be the Morning Star. That's the only paper. And the only paper, by the way, that will be on your side when you engage in all the struggles that we have to fight against exploitation and oppression, whether here in Britain or anywhere else. Comrades, the message of all of these May Day events is the same: unity. Unity of workers and their families, irrespective of race, nationality, language or religion. Working people and oppressed peoples of all lands unite. That was the great slogan of the Communist International in the early 1920s. Workers and oppressed peoples of all lands unite. And let's not forget those peoples around the world that are still facing the most severe repression. In particular, of course, the Palestinian people who've been deprived of their lands and their rights for so many decades, subjected to periodic massacres of civilians. But also, in the light of the controversy that's currently taking place, let us never allow our proper condemnation of the policies of the Israeli state and the Israeli government. Let us never allow that to spill over into anti-Semitism. There are many Jewish people in Britain and around the world and in Israel who support and campaign for the rights of the Palestinian people. That's the great international campaign. It's almost like the anti-apartheid campaign of the 21st century. But at the same time, let us also be clear, it has nothing to do with anti-Semitism, but neither will we be frightened away from campaigning for the rights of the Palestinian people by bogus accusations that somehow to criticize the Israeli government or to criticize the Israeli state is to be anti-Semitic. It's not. It's not. And that should be part of our message this May Day. We're for unity of working people and their families. We're for a change of government here in Britain. We're for a change of government policies. And of course I've agreed with every word that every speaker has said up until now, but I'm going to quibble about one point. We don't have to wait till 2020 to get rid of this Tory government. We don't have to. If we can build up the biggest possible movement through the People's Assembly and other organisations, if we can support the junior doctors, the steel workers and the teachers in the battles that they're facing, we can produce a crisis in this government. And why we can't aim to bring down this government years before 2020. But it's going to take unity and it's going to take action. And that's what International Workers' Day must also be about. Finally, comrades and friends, it's not only just about changing this government here in Britain and the policies, and it's not only about fighting for social justice and liberation around the world. It's about fighting for a completely different system of society. How can it be right in a world in which workers produce so much wealth, such enormous wealth, enjoyed by the 1% who don't even want to pay their taxes? How can it be right that in such a rich world, one person dies every 10 seconds from malnutrition or the other effects of poverty? One child dies every 6 seconds in this world because of malnutrition or the other impact of poverty. What kind of system allows that? And that's why as well, on International Workers' Day, we shouldn't be ashamed to dedicate ourselves not only to declare our fraternity with workers around the world, but to say we want a different kind of world. We want socialism. We want a world free of exploitation and oppression. And that too must be part of our message on International Workers' Day. Comrades and friends, I look forward to seeing not only all of you here on Sunday, October the 9th, when we celebrate the great victory in the Battle of Cable Street 80 years ago. I hope that we're going to see your friends, your family, your neighbours, your workmates. We are going to fill this park on October the 9th before we march down to Cable Street and celebrate that terrific victory. Thank you very much.
There is no other way, because when I left Manchester or even beyond that, it was cold and I didn't know that what would be the weather in London. Now when I come here, I see that May Day is supported by all of you. Not only that, but also by the weather. Nature loves May Day. There is no doubt about it. I think I'm very impressed with this picture and the banner, and I think you will like to see the artist. Is the artist present here? Zaman. Oh, yeah. Here is the person who has done it and done us proud. Everybody is talking about this banner and this portrait that he has made. Thank you very much. After my comrade's speech, my talk, whatever I will be doing, will be insipid. It won't be as fiery as him, it won't be that good. But one thing I can say, that on behalf of the Communist Party of Bangladesh in Europe, it is my proud privilege to congratulate Bangladeshi Workers Council for organizing this rally, which will be followed by GONOSANGEET in the heart of East End in Altab Ali Park. And I hope that this will be an annual event and it will be attended by more and more people. Everybody has said May Day is an important occasion which was observed since 1890 when Second Socialist International declared it a day of solidarity of all the workers of the world. Such a spirit of internationalism was immensely important then and is also very important even more so now. Because of when the populist nationalism and fascists are on the rise in Europe. I'm very aware of that. Far right in Britain causing continuous provocation in Tower Hamlet. The recent electoral success of far right in Austria, the uninterrupted advance of Le Pen in France, the emergence of Haque in Germany, and many others are all indicative of deep crisis in European democracy are facing. We'll have to face it calmly and resolutely, propagate the value of democracy, etc. I don't want to go in detail of it. We'll have to go to Marx library to learn about it. Communist Party of Bangladesh, since its inception, has a glorious record of struggle against chauvinism, communalism, and all forms of anti-democratic forces. And in this task, the trade union was always in the forefront. From the very inception of the trade unions in colonial Bengal, in all the jute mills around Kolkata and the cotton mills around Dhaka and Naranganj, the Communist Party under the leadership of legendary Muzaffar Ahmed, Bankim Chatterjee, Abdul Halim, Moni Singh, Anil Mukherjee, Khokarai and others, pioneered the united front of all anti-fascist and democratic forces successfully. The Communist Party is carrying on the same banner, same idealism, and the work of solidarity is continuing amongst the 4 million women garment workers. The garment workers, they are not only fighting for their rights in workplaces, but they are moving forward the rights of women in general. I bring to this rally the solidarity of the trade union movements of our party, of the Communist Party of Bangladesh. Thank you, Lal Salam, thank you very much.
Long time with patience. I thank you for your patience. And unfortunately, we are not able to continue our rally, though we have lots of community leaders here who can speak for us, but unfortunately we cannot afford a time to continue the rally. We know Mr. Murad Qureshi, London Assembly member is here. We thank him for his attendance. Friends, I would like to thank you all our contributors for taking the time to join our rally and making their diverse and important contributions. Many have asked me why we have established Bangladeshi Workers Council and why we are observing May Day as our inaugural event. I will not bore you with our aims and objectives or with our work plan. It will soon be on our website. However, at the more broader level, I want to highlight what was the spark for us to establish our organization. This was the sense that a historical amnesia seems to be prevalent in the political landscape in East London, especially amongst the younger generation. As the skyscrapers are rising higher and higher, we seem to have forgotten the tradition of the Bryant and May workers, the struggles of the dockers, transport workers, construction workers, and other trade unionists. We seem to have severed our links with the radical Jewish political tradition of the 30s and 40s, giving rise to creeping anti-Semitism. We need to reconnect with our own history in East London. The younger generation from my own Bangladeshi community, overwhelmingly majority of whom from the district of Cllr, are not aware of the radical and progressive tradition of Cllr. They would be enriched with pride if they know the work of their mass leaders, peasants, organizers, and trade unionists like Rohini Das, Barin Dotto, Ajoy Bhattacharya, Pir Habibur Rahman, Lala Sardindu Dey, Barun Rai, Taramia, Hena Das, and countless radical and progressive personalities from Cllr. This forgetfulness has meant that we don't move beyond what immediately concerns us. Community cohesion cannot be developed in this manner. Just as we take part in anti-war marches, we should equally participate in huge numbers in anti-austerity marches. That way, we will develop a sense of collective identity and struggle. Dear friends and comrades, we know that the politicians, progressive, prospective candidates of the Bengali populated areas in the UK are visiting Bangladesh on a regular basis. I will request and ask them all not to forget trade unions and the labor movements when they land in Bangladesh. Please go and visit the female garment workers in their workplace and home. That will be real international solidarity. That will be real May spirit. Thank you all. Thank you. Lal Salam. Duniyar Mazdoor. Ek ho larai karo. Ek ho larai karo. Duniyar Mazdoor. Duniyar Mazdoor. Ek ho larai karo.
সম্বলি কে রক্ষে এই তেজ দীপ্ত মিলিত মিছিল বন্যাকে একসাথে কোটি হাতে আঘাতে চূর্ণ করি ক্লেদ ঘৃণ্য দস্যুকে চলো 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 কুটিল চক্কি বিষ ছড়ায় মরণ ফাঁদে জীবন জড়ায় কুটিল চক্কি বিষ ছড়ায় মরণ ফাঁদে জীবন জড়ায় জীবন নূতন গড়বে কে মরণ পণে লড়বে কে জীবন নূতন करेंगे या मरेंगे गुर्जे सेनानी कदम बड़ा करेंगे या मरेंगे गुर्जे सेनानी कदम बड़ा चलो 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 হুঁশিয়ারি আলো চোখে চোখে জানো দস্যু না পালায় কষ্টর যেন গ্রাম লুটে নিয়ে আধারে না লুকায় হুঁশিয়ারি আলো চোখে চোখে জানো দস্যু না পালায় কষ্টর যেন গ্রাম লুটে নিয়ে আধারে না লুকায় ভাঙা বুকে ফিরে শান্তি পেতেছি এ ঘর না জ্বালায় ভাঙা বুকে ফিরে শান্তি পেতেছি এ ঘর না জ্বালায় বর্বর যেন পায় না গোছাড়া করা পাহারার বাঁধবাদী চলো 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 হে মুক্তি সেনানী বিভেদ সর্বশের দলে মেলানো মন্ত্র সম্বলে কে রক্ষে এই তেজ দীপ্ত মিলিত মিছিল বন্যাকে একসাথে কোটি হাতে আঘাতে চূর্ণ করি ক্লেদ ভিন্ন দস্যুকে চলো 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 संभालो धान हो कष्ट का दौशान हो ऐ संभालो धान हो कष्ट का दौशान हो रंग को बुलंद मान के রক্তে বোনা ধান মোদের গান হো নেতা দর্শন হো দান কবুলার মান কবুল আর দেব না রক্তে বোনা ধান Hey, hey, samalo, hey, samalo, hey, samalo, hey, samalo. Sini tomai sini go, zani tomai zani go, sini tomai sini go, zani tomai zani go. Shada hatir kalama tumi na, zan kobul har man kobul. Ar debo na, rok debo na, dhan moder gan ho. Hey, hey, samalo, hey, samalo, hey, samalo, hey, samalo. মান দিছি 50 লাখ প্রাণ দিছি মা বোনেদের মান দিছি কালো বাজার আলো করো তুমি না জান কবুলার মান আর দেব না রক দেব না ধান গান হো হেই হেই সামালো হেই সামালো হেই সামালো হেই সামালো হেই সামালো ধান হো কাস্তেটা দাও শান হো হেই সামালো ধান হো কাস্তেটা দাও শান হো জান কবুলার মান কবুল আর দেব না রক দেব না ধান গান হো হেই হেই সামালো হেই সামালো হেই সামালো হেই সামালো হো 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 আ হা 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 হেই ও হো 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 Hey samalo, hey samalo, hey samalo, hey samalo. আমার প্রতিবাদের ভাষা, আমার প্রতিরোধের আগুন দ্বিগুণ জ্বলে যেন দ্বিগুণ দারুণ প্রতিশোধে করে জুড়ল ছিন্ন ভিন্ন শত ষড়যন্ত্রের জাল যেন আনে মুক্তি আলো আনে লক্ষ্য শত প্রাণে শত লক্ষ্য কোটি প্রাণে আমার প্রতিবাদের ভাষা আমার প্রতিরোধের আগুন দ্বিগুণ জ্বলে যেন দ্বিগুণ দারুণ প্রতিশোধে করে চূর্ণ ছিন্ন ভিন্ন শত ষড়যন্ত্রের জাল যেন আনে মুক্তি আলো আনে লক্ষ্য শত প্রাণে শত লক্ষ্য কোটি প্রাণে আমার প্রতিবাদের ভাষা আমার প্রতিরোধের আগুন আমার প্রতি নিঃশ্বাসের বিষে বিশ্বের বঞ্চনার ভাষা দারুণ বিস্ফোরণ যেন ধ্বংসের গর্জনে হানে আমার প্রতি নিঃশ্বাসের বিষে বিশ্বের বঞ্চনার ভাষা দারুণ বিস্ফোরণ যেন ধ্বংসের গর্জনে হানে যত বিপ্লব বিদ্রোহের আমি সাথী যত বিপ্লব বিদ্রোহের আমি সাথী আমি মাটি করতে হেতায় সেতায় মানুষের মুক্তির বিপন্নতায় আমি মাটি করতে হেতায় সেতায় মানুষের মুক্তির বিপন্নতায় আমারই রক্ত ঝরে দেশে দেশে বন্দর শতমূল কন্দরে গৌরী শিখায় আমারই রক্ত ঝরে দেশে দেশে বন্দরে শতমূল কন্দরে গৌরী শিখায় মিলনের তীর্থের সন্ধানে আনে মুক্তি আলো আনে লক্ষ্য শত প্রাণে শত লক্ষ্য কোটি প্রাণে আমার প্রতিবাদের ভাষা আমার প্রতিরোধের আগুন আমার প্রতি নিঃশ্বাসের বিষে বিশ্বের বঞ্চনার ভাষা দারুণ বিস্ফোরণ যেন ধ্বংসের গর্জনে হানে আমার প্রতি নিঃশ্বাসের বিষে বিশ্বের বঞ্চনার ভাষা দারুণ বিস্ফোরণ যেন ধ্বংসের গর্জনে হানে যত বিপ্লব বিদ্রোহের আমি সাথী যত বিপ্লব বিপ্লবের আমি সাথী আমি মাকে যুদ্ধের হেতায় সেতায় মানুষের মুক্তির বিপন্নতায় আমি মাকে যুদ্ধের হেতায় সেতায় মানুষের মুক্তির বিপন্নতায় আমারই রক্ত ঝরে দেশে দেশে বন্দরে শতমূল কন্দরে গৌরী শিখায় আমারই রক্ত জরে দেশে দেশে বন্দর শতমূল কন্দরে গৌরী শিখায় মিলনের তীর্থের সন্ধানে আনে মুক্তি আলো আনে লক্ষ্য শত প্রাণে শত লক্ষ কোটি প্রাণে আমার প্রতিবাদের ভাষা আমার প্রতিরোধের আগুন দ্বিগুণ জ্বলে যেন দ্বিগুণ দারুণ প্রতিশোধে করে চূর্ণ ছিন্ন ভিন্ন শত ষড়যন্ত্রের জাল যেন আনে মুক্তি আলো আনে লক্ষ্য শত প্রাণে শত লক্ষ কোটি প্রাণে আমার প্রতিবাদের ভাষা আমার প্রতিরোধের আগুন শিল্পী সংগ্রামী পল রবসন ওরা জীবনের গান গাইতে দেয় না শিল্পী সংগ্রামী পল রবসন আমরা তোমাদের গান গাই ওরা চায় না আমরা তোমাদের গান গাই ওরা চায় না শিল্পী সংগ্রামী পল রবসন শিল্পী সংগ্রামী পল রবসন শিল্পী সংগ্রামী পল রবসন ওরা জীবনের গান গাইতে দেয় না শিল্পী সংগ্রামী পল রবসন তুমি চেয়ে দেখো রবসন তুমি চেয়ে দেখো রবসন আমাদের ঐক্যতানে ঘুম ভেঙেছে বিপ্লবের সঙ্গী দেখে ঘুম দেখেছে তোমার ওই সঙ্গীকে ভয় পেয়েছে রবসন ওরা প্রতিরোধ প্রস্তুতিকে ভয় পেয়েছে রবসন শিল্পী সংগ্রামী পল রবসন শিল্পী সংগ্রামী পল রবসন করেছে একতা ওরা দূর করেছি হীনতা ওরা ভয় পায় তাই আমাদের ওরা ভয় পেয়েছে আজ একতা মোরা জয় করেছি একতা মোরা দূর করেছি হীনতা ওরা ভয় পায় তাই আমাদের ওরা ভয় পেয়েছে আজ একতা তুমি মৃত্যুহীন যে রবসন তুমি মৃত্যুহীন যে রবসন পৃথিবীর প্রতি গড়ে পথ প্রান্তরে মেঘনদী জনতার প্রতি অন্তরে তোমার ওই ঐক্যতান গান শোনা যায় রবসন সারা দুনিয়া শৌখিনেরা এক রবসন শিল্পী সংগ্রামী পল রবসন শিল্পী সংগ্রামী পল রবসন ওরা জীবনের গান গাইতে দেয় না শিল্পী সংগ্রামী পল রবসন শ্রমিক দিয়াছে আজ সারা উঠিয়াছে মুক্তির আশা জাগো 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 সর্বহারা অনশন বন্দীকৃত দাস শ্রমিক দিয়াছে আজ সারা উঠিয়াছে মুক্তির আশা সনাতন জীর্ণ কুয়াচা চূর্ণ করি জাগো জনগণ ঘুচায় দ্বন্দ্ব হাহাকার জীবন মরণ করিব শেষ যুদ্ধ শুরু আজ কমরেড এসো মোরা মিলি একসাথ গাও ইন্টারন্যাশনাল বিলাও মানবতা শেষ যুদ্ধ শুরু আজ কমরেড এসো মোরা মিলি একসাথ